And another 6.6 million Americans say they are out of work, putting the total jobless claims at 17 million over the past 3 weeks. Economists estimate that at the end of the COVID crisis, nearly 50 million jobs could be lost, roughly a third of the entire U.S. workforce. Those numbers are scaring everyone, including the president, who believes his reelection hinges on a strong economy. So to get things back up, he is convening a task force to find a way to reopen the country by April 30th. But the decision to get people back to work is not entirely his. After all, he was not the one who made the decision for them to go home in the first place. Remember, it was back on March 11th that the NBA canceled its season mid-game when it found out a player had tested positive, effectively signaling to the rest of the country that things could no longer be business as usual. In the aftermath, companies from large to small told their employees to work from home. Local governments closed schools and banned gatherings. And both Republican and Democratic state governors issued shelter-in-place orders, which is to say that ultimately reopening the country will depend more on whether Americans and their employers feel it's safe to go back to the office. Joining us now to get into this is NBC News senior business correspondent and MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle. So, Stephanie, a lot of this is not necessarily correct when we're talking about the unemployment number, because so many people are finding it difficult to apply for it as the websites keep crashing. There's just also the sheer size, the amount of the money that Congress has authorized to send out to the states. But it's like trying to get the Mississippi River into 5 different house pipes. That is nearly impossible to do quickly.
It's nearly impossible to do quickly, and simply saying, I'm going to put together a task force and we're going to be open for business. Let's make something clear. Open for business is a sentiment. It's a sign. It's not real life. This isn't a snow day. We're not going to decide a week from now or 3 weeks from now, all right, everybody trot back to work. Look at Singapore. Singapore opened back up, and then they saw the largest daily jump to date. And who was it? It was blue-collar workers. We're not going to go back to work until public health experts weigh in here, until you have departments of health say, where are we organizing the infrastructure to have wide-scale case testing, where every person who's showing symptoms has someone from the health department go to their house, record their case, figure out who they spoke to, who they visited. That's how you address this. You have to do it in a public health policy way, or we are going to be in worse shape than ever. And business leaders aren't going to do what the president tells them what to do. You brought it up first. It was Adam Silver from the NBA who said, we're canceling the rest of the season. That was the first moment we had this great aha shift. And it's those frontline workers, not necessarily people who are sitting in a C-suite, who are putting themselves at risk every day. So when you look at the unemployment number, it's upsetting and it's jarring. But it also means that Americans are going home, which is what we need them to do. And what the government needs to do is figure out, how are we going to get, whether it's PPP loans or unemployment benefits, how are we going to get them to the American people faster? Because I promise you, as you just said, people aren't getting the money that they need, at least not yet.
Steph, you're so right that there is no back to work federal signal in this country. And when the president talks about vast stretches of the country, entire regions that he could put back in the economy earlier than others, is that a signal to like ag and oil that he's looking out for their industries?
Sure, maybe he's winking at them, but the president's showmanship, or, whether we're seeing the numbers overstated or understated, aren't going to play this time, because we're talking about life and death. People are dying. Grocery store employees are dying. And think about it. If he's mentioning this to people in the ag community, if you run a farm, you cannot run the risk that people you have out there working have the virus. They're spreading it to someone else. This is very serious business. So yes, the president is getting out there talking up a big game, and it makes the market go up and it makes the market go down. But this is a perfect example of where the stock market and real life and the real economy are two very different things.
Stephanie, one more question to you, if you don't mind, about the SBA. I'm a little concerned about the banks and when they are going to know when to stop loaning money. Is the Treasury, do they have any concern whatsoever about whether banks will be able to remain solvent if they are handing out this money over and over again to these SBA loans? And they don't necessarily, as of now at least, have all of that money to refund them, as we're hearing the phase 4 or the additional money from Secretary Mnuchin and the Republicans is so far stalled in Congress.
Well, that's one of the reasons why you've had this time delay in banks giving out this money. So you had Secretary Mnuchin last Thursday and Friday saying, just call any FDIC insured bank, apply and get the money same day. Well, the banks, of course, are saying not so fast. I don't want to be the one left here holding the bag. So while the banks, small and large, are processing these applications, they're not going to simply run it through the system unless they have absolute verification that they know who these applicants are. So they're not going to get themselves in a regulatory quagmire if it's a fraudulent application. And they want to be sure that the Fed is going to pay them back. At this point, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Excuse me, the Treasury, not the Fed.
Stephanie Ruhle, our thanks for talking us through the